Hey folks, Dave from Dave's Decals here. This is the beginning of part one. I'm actually already done part one, and I'm coming back and I'm adding this in because there was a few things that I forgot to do that I'm going to cover at the beginning of part two in a little more detail. Things like priming and things like sanding down the corners and getting those to match up. I didn't go over and show how to sand them, but I mean, sanding, you can probably figure that out. But I'll get into that with a little more detail in part two, and the importance of priming because of Hydrocal and why we need to prime Hydrocal as opposed to just going ahead and start slapping paint on it. So hope you enjoy part one. Please check out part two. It should be done by the time you're seeing this, but I'm working on it right now. And I'll catch you all on the next one if I don't catch you at the end of this one. Talk to you later. Bye. Hey folks, Dave from Dave's Decals here. It's decals, details, and models. And I told you the other day I was going to start a Hydrocal kit. And I'm sorry you can't see my beautiful face, but I don't have a cameraman and having to do this on my own. So what I've got here is a Downtown Deco Addams Avenue Part 3 kit. This is a nice little kit to start on if you've never really done Hydrocal before. It's a pretty simple, straightforward kit. It's 4 walls and a roof, and we'll show you how to build that. And what I want to talk about today, right now, is doing a little cleanup on them and getting them ready to prime and paint. So I've already started on this one. Unfortunately, I've had to restart this video about 4 times now thanks to my phone ringing, and who knows, it may ring again. But I'm going to show you what I've done so far. I've already got it open. Now these come wrapped on cardboard with bubble wrap, and they're pretty secure, pretty safe. You have to worry about them showing up broken and things like that. Get this out of the way. So anyway, this kit, nice little kit, makes a little 2-building, 2-story, 4-story, 2-building, 4-story building here. And a lot of people like to use X-Acto knives to clean these up, and that's fine if that's what you like. What I like to use is sculpting tools. I don't know if you can see those or not. I'll try to get those up there. Basic little sculpting tools that you can get. I've had these for probably 30 years, maybe longer. I used to be a model maker. You have to use a lot of wax, plastiline, clay, things along those lines, and they work great for that. They also work great for this. But you get a little bit of flashing on here. I've got a little bit left I need to clean up, thankfully, for the video. And I just take this and sort of scrape it off, clean it up, get those edges nice and sharp. And think, because you're going to get a little bit of flashing in here when you get these sometimes. Not a lot, but a little bit. A lot of it you can pop out and then just sort of clean up the edges and make it look pretty. But it's not real hard to clean up. It's pretty soft stuff to work with. You don't have to have a sharp knife or anything. Like I said, these are dull. These aren't going to cut you. Well, I guess if you tried hard enough you could, but they're not going to cut you, and they're good to go. So just get those all cleaned up, get them ready, and then what you're going to do, at least this is how I do it. Your technique may vary. What you have on these kits, if you look, and I'm going to have my glasses, I'm sorry. You got one edge that's got brick. I don't know if that'll zoom in, if I'll get too tight. And you have one side that does not, that's nice and smooth. And I need to get this on the big screen so I can see if it's showing or not. But bricks, smooth. On the smooth side, the smooth's just going to go to smooth, like this. They can set it by themselves. And what you're going to do is you're going to put epoxy in here to seal these together. But before you do that, what I like to do is I like to paint the insides black. That way when your building's done, you don't have a lot of white showing, especially if you want to light them up and things along those lines. So on the edges that I'm going to paint black, the sides I'm going to paint black, I'll tape off the edges where I'm going to put the Hydrocal, or not the Hydrocal, where I'm going to put the epoxy, because I don't want to get paint on that. Because you want Hydrocal to stick to Hydrocal and not paint to paint, because that creates a barrier between your surfaces and you have a chance of it coming undone. So any of those edges like that that you don't want the paint to show up on, just tape off. Same thing goes on this, on the sides. You're just going to right along the edge where you don't want paint just tape it off. Now I'm not going to sit here and do all of these. I think you get the idea of what I'm talking about on those two right there. So get all these cleaned up, get these painted on the inside, and then what I do is I put them together and then I paint the outside, which means I prime the outside with a primer. You can use a gray primer, white primer, brown primer, red primer, whatever primer you want. I like to use white myself or a light gray, because that way you get more depth in your color when you start putting your washes on for the color of your building. So we'll do that off camera, get all these taped up, painted up, and then we'll be back. And hey folks, we're back. Went ahead and got these all taped up and get this little house out of the way. Got these all taped up and painted. Show you that real quick. All I've done is, like I said, just taped them up, pull that off, sides that you're gonna have had epoxy on. You don't want any paint on, because that way it will not stick properly. So just go ahead and get that all painted up. Take your tape off, and then you can start putting Hydrocal on. And that's pretty much all there is to that, and that's really all I've got for this right now, because I don't have time to do the epoxy at this particular moment in time. Just wanted to show you that, because I know that I would sit here and get antsy, and at some point in the middle of the night I'd start working on it, and then I would forget to record it. So, but front, all these decal kits, I'm sorry about this, I need to shut those blinds. All these Deco kits generally go with the front, the two side walls joining to the back of the front piece, and the back wall being sandwiched between the two walls like such, right there. So that's going to go like that. Nope, I'm sorry. That's going to go like that and that. Wrong wall, wrong side. Anyway, that's how it's going to go. We'll get this all, get ready to epoxy this up. I'll get back to you on it. Hopefully that sun won't be beaming in through those windows so hard and creating so many shadows, and we can see what we're doing. But get back with you on that in a little while. Talk to you later. Hey guys, I'm back. Several hours later. I've had a lot of things I've had to take care of. But I'm going to go ahead, and I've gone ahead and sprayed the inside of these black, like I said I was going to do. That way you don't get a lot of reflection on the inside when you put your lights on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and epoxy up one side of these. I'm not going to do them all here on screen, because I think you're going to get the idea with one. But I got these two sides cleaned up good. I got a couple other ones I need to touch up a little bit. But these here are, this one and this one is front, and this right side is cleaned up pretty good. Got a pretty good match on that. So what we're going to do is going to mix up a little bit of epoxy. I would have done this before I started filming, but you know how epoxy is. It doesn't give you a lot of time. This is 5-minute epoxy, so yes, it gives me about 5 minutes. You don't need a whole lot for one side, maybe about the size of a nickel all together. If you can see, that's about all you really need. It's really probably a little bit more than I need actually. Just mix that up good. You know how epoxy works. I don't use any sort of special kind of epoxy, just 5-minute cheap epoxy that I can find. Whatever I can get the best deal on. So I try not to get too much on this edge here, on this outside edge with the brick set, that way it doesn't come out and you don't have to fool with that. Try to keep it on the inside. I use a toothpick. Different folks use different things, but that's what I use. Some people use a popsicle stick, some people use an old brush or what have you. I just use a toothpick, put it on there. Get a little bit on this one here too. Which side am I working on? You sort of smear it on. It's what works for me. Whatever works for you, works for you. And we're going to put these together. You can use a square. Got a little bit squeezing out there. I don't want that. So, rake it over some to keep it from squeezing out. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll just take one of the walls, because they've already got a right angle on them, push that up, get it square. I'm sorry you can't see this from the side you're on. I'll try to get this turned around a little bit where you can see it. We'll get this, try to get that as, breaking too much of it out. That on there. See that we're sort of square. And I pull that back a little bit because I don't want that epoxy catching the corner of that piece, and glued it in there. So I just sort of check it, make sure we're square. It looks good. Give that a little hole. Make sure we're don't have a lot of time here. You know how stuff starts to set up on you. Get a little bit of working time. Leave it. Get all the extra epoxy off your hands that you got, because I made a mess. I made a mess there. Kind of doing it backwards. I got a little bit squeezed out that I don't like, but I'll deal with that in a little bit. Anyway, that's what you're going to do. Let that dry up. I'm going to glue up the rest of these. Epoxy up the rest of these. You can see we use just about all of that, and it's already starting to dry. And when I get that done, oop, I moved it. When I get that done, all the sides on and everything gets good and dry, we'll come back and we'll start on something else. Probably going to go ahead. I may go ahead and prime the outside of it, and that way you get a idea. I think you know how to do that. That doesn't need a lot of instruction. Spray paint the outside with some good primer. I think that'd be good. Any sort of cheap spray paint will work. White, gray, whatever color. I'm going to use white. Might use gray. I don't know. Haven't decided yet. I got both colors, and I'll be back with you on that. See, got this one all glued up for you. Inside's painted black. All the sides nice and sturdy, nice and square. Ready to get primed up and start putting some paint on it. One little thing I noticed on this one here is that I have a little bit of a gap right there where I wasn't paying as close attention as I should have. So there's a way of fixing that. And what I use, and granted this particular product is no longer available and hasn't been for a long time. It's called sculpting paste. I use this when I used to do model making. I used to go through quite a bit of it, so I always had quite a bit on hand. I've got a few jars of it, I think 2 or 3. And it's old. It's just 30 years old and it's still good. So this was good stuff from the get-go. But you can use any sort of modeling paste that you need, like tomato putty or milliput or any of that kind of stuff. But it's pretty simple. What you do, you get these little gaps, and this is just a, you know, pretty much the same stuff you get in the tube, except it comes in a jar. And you gotta worry about drying out on you in the jar as long as you keep the lid on it good and tight. But it does dry out pretty fast once you get it out. I use my little sculpting tool, and I will put that down in there just like that. Fill it up. Try not to get it on the brick too much if you can help it, because it will fill in the grooves on your brick, but that's no big deal. It is a sculpting paste, so you can cut those lines back in, which I normally do. But you sort of get the idea there. You just sort of fill it in, and you can smooth it out with your finger. It's water cleanup. It's not toxic. You can mix it with white glue like Elmer's or Elaine's or whomever's. It kind of keeps it from cracking if you got to fill in bigger areas, and you can thin it with water if need be. and use it to clean up with water. But it's pretty easy to use. And like I say, it's pretty much like the stuff that most of you guys probably already are familiar with, as far as that goes. I should have sanded that side just a little bit more before I put it on. I didn't quite get it as flat across there as I wanted to, and ended up with a little bit of a gap in the middle, because unlike plastic, this stuff's not gonna bend on you and be able to fill up a gap. But I'm going to do this right here. That's all I'm going to do to that. Probably cut the lines back in with this little tool here once it dries. It's not that hard to do. I've got to give you a look-see of that. Wipe this off here. When that dries, I'll just take it and, I don't worry about trying to get everything exact on it. Just kind of go down the brick lines and pull them back in and all the way across, and kind of hides that seam a little bit. You can also use some architectural features, like especially on the back walls, like gutters. I always use gutters there. Stuff's still a little bit soft for doing this, but you get the idea. Excuse me, that's what you're going to do. And put the lid back on tight so it don't dry out, because can't buy that no more. That's it. We'll get this primed up, ready to go. But you can see how it kind of looks from the front and your sides. I don't know how you can see that. I've got a little tiny screen I'm looking at, and that's it. So that's where we're at right now. Inside painted black, all four sides epoxied up. Oh, one little thing I do on the insides, if I've got any leftover epoxy that I've mixed up, I just take it and roll it off in the corners and kind of let it run down on the inside, and strengthen those corners up a little bit as it dries. Kind of gives it a little bit more rigidity, a little bit more strength, and patch up any of the corners, any of the sides that I need. I like that, and check it, sand, make sure everything's pretty much square. This one here is actually just a tiny bit. Looks like it might be a tiny bit out of square, but that's no big deal. That's just nature of the beast. It's an old building, it's settled, it's moved a little bit. It's not much, but just a tiny bit. But I think I jostled it around when I was working on it earlier, when I wasn't on film there, and kind of moved it a little bit when I wasn't planning on it. Yeah, got this all glued up and everything. Got everything all patched up on it. It's all straight. And what we're going to do now is, I forgot to mention this earlier. One of the things about a lot of these older buildings like this, they used to have wall supports on the sides. Those little stars that you see on the sides of the building kind of holds it all together. And this building, this side here has 3 floors, obviously, and this one has 4. So they're not going to be matched up all the way across if you want to keep consistency. So what I've done is I get, see if I can show you these. Whether to zoom in or not, you can see it. Little tiny sequin stars. Can't remember if I got these at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or wherever, on eBay, something like that. But I'll divide the building up between the floors and the sides, and I don't know if you can see those or not. And I'll put those on there, glue those on before I paint it. And I've got them already laid out on this side here. It's not a big deal to put them on. I'm not going to sit here and show you how to put every one of them on. That would be a tremendous waste of time. But I'll just take a little dot of do a couple. Little dot of glue. Put them on here. And then you just take your X-Acto knife, just stab them, get your hand in the glue, and stick them on there. And if they don't want to come off, just get another little tool and hold it down there. I lay them out with a ruler, kind of space them where I think they need to go. Nothing scientific about it. Man, I could have shifted all these a little bit more to the right, but I didn't. So yeah, I'll put all 4 of those on. Each slide, 4 here, 4, 4, 4. That'll put them between each floor. I kind of lay them up between, because that's where they go. There are cables that would run between the buildings to hold the walls in, and I kind of do them between the floors. And then when I get those all done, I'll spray paint it and let it dry, and then we'll start painting. But I've gone ahead and got it primed up, and I don't know if you can see the little stars on there or not. Can you see it? Yeah, it looks alright. They will put this thing on the big screen to where I can actually see what I'm looking at. But anybody that's built models knows, unless you're just doing something straight out of the box, exactly like the picture on the box, which I never do, then you spend an immense amount of time sitting around looking at it thinking, what am I going to make this thing? The last time I made one of these, I made this side here was a bar, had an awning on it, had some advertising on the side, a little bit of graffiti and things, and then this side was a pool hall. Again with a little bit of graffiti and some old advertising. I kind of made this thing part of I mean, maybe 1970s, somewhere along in there, early 80s, 70s, back when there was a lot of grungy inner city things going on. People were tagging stuff and things along those lines. So anyway, that's what I've been sitting here doing, trying to figure out what am I going to do with this model. What am I going to make? Do I want to make this an apartment? Do I want to make this a warehouse? Do I want to make this another bar? Do I what? I don't know. I still haven't quite figured it out yet. I did straighten this up a little bit. It was a little cockeyed. I'd sit it down here to dry, and somehow I'd shuffling stuff around. I kind of got it out of square, so I've gone ahead and squared this back up. That can be ugly because you basically got to pop the whole thing apart and put it back together. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. It's primed. It's ready to paint. And one of the paints that I use, let me see if I can find it. This is an old paint. Same with this other stuff that I was telling you about, the sculpture paste. This is an old paint that I like to use. It's Brick Red by Ceramichrome. They do not make this anymore. This is my last bottle. They don't make it anymore, and this one is just about empty. I sort of hold on to it for get a color match, because I go down to Lowe's and I have them color match it. Now this isn't the best stuff in the world. It's a little thick, so you need to thin it down. But you know, just a cheap old paint like this will work fine on them. Some people, you know, it works out, but you know, that way I can get basically, this is 2 ounces. This is 28 ounces. This cost 15 bucks. This probably cost 50 cents when they first came out, if that much. It probably still costs 50 cents a day if they still made them. But Deco Art, who took over the company, no longer makes this color, and I've talked to them, and they've sent me a whole bunch of red paints, but none of them really match. So I mix it up, and it's a brick red. And if you want to get that color mixed up yourself, I don't know if you can see that or not. Those are the codes. You can freeze frame that and get the codes off of it. Take it down there and have them mix it up. If you get lucky like I did, they'll not get the color quite right, and then you'll get a couple of cans for like $2 a piece. So I got 2 more cans of this that the color's just slightly off, just a little bit. It's not a perfect match. They sold them to me for $2. So I got enough the brick red paint now to last me for the rest of my life. But this is kind of thick, so I generally cut it with water and put it on in washes. So I don't really know if you need me to show you how to paint these or not. I'm pretty sure you can figure out how to paint them. I may show you some of the little detail steps of painting, some of the little things that you can do. But I'm probably just going to go ahead and shut the camera off, paint this thing up, figure out, and maybe do a little more figure on what I want to make it to be, and then we'll go from there. I'll probably show you some stuff on the stone and around the foundation, and this tile work here on the front and the wood and stuff. But as far as the brick goes, I mean, painting a red color on a building, it's painting a red color on a building. I mean, there's not a lot of rocket science, just science to that. So we'll be back. And another thing, real quick on these here, I don't put the windows in until I'm almost done, because these windows, the way they are, for this particular building, let me go ahead and, no, I don't have one open, but they go on the outside, and you're going to have to cut the windows, the window glass, to go in them individually to fit perfectly, because they're going to sit in here. And another thing you want to do is on the inside of all these windows, you want to paint them black all the way around. Paint those black on the inside. That way they don't show through when you put your windows in, and you don't see the red or the white of the Hydrocal. So paint all those solid black on the inside, and then we'll get to it all. So be back in a little while. Gonna go ahead and paint this. Not gonna bore you with sitting here watch me toil away painting. So if there's something that's interesting or something that maybe you need to know, I'll throw that in there. Talk to you in a little while.